Hello, everybody. Welcome to University TiE Global event. And we're here for the Business Hackathon Expert Talk. I am Amy Henry, and I am with the TiE Houston as a board member and mentor for the TiE University program. And today we have Nicole Pardo from the Pumps and Pipes program here in Houston joining us to discuss challenge number 12 for the TiE University Global Business Hackathon. So that was a lot of words to put out there. So we're going to let Nicole kind of give a little bit of information about the program that she's with and a little bit about her background. Nicole?
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Pardo. I'm a physician by training. I've been doing health IT for the past 10 years. I've been, working on creating different products for healthcare, particularly related with coordination of care. Some gamification, which is the challenge that we are going to talk about today, and I'm representing Pumps and Pies, which is a uniquely Houston initiative that brings together the three large industries in Houston: healthcare, energy and aerospace, and obviously academia. So I'm happy to be here and help drive this using gamification for engagement challenge today.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Nicole. And now we're going to read the challenge that we have in front of us. It's for the Global Hackathon. The company's name is ConvoSite, and the title is Using Gamification for Engagement. So the challenge is, since the engagement of the post happens on Facebook group itself, and Facebook shares very limited data via its API, only posts and comments and no personal identified information, there is no way for a brand to track actions that the users took after engaging with its post on the group. Ideally, the brand would like to know that if there are 50,000 members in a group where it did a post, how many people out of the 50,000 subsequently visited its website or went to see its products. Ideally, if there's a way for an admin to engage its community members outside of the platform, such as on convosite.com through a gamified journey, it is then possible for a ConvoSite to track final numbers of users who engage with the brand sponsored posts, allowing them to calculate ROI, which is return on investment. The gamification journey can start from a community post done by the admin and end on the ConvoSite's website, where a final number of unique users can be given a special offering by the brand to measure cost of the customer acquisition. So I guess for the next step, I'm going to pass this on, or shall we read also the expected business solution? Ms. Samia?
Samia. I think she's on
Sorry,
mute.
I was on mute. Yeah, we can share the expected business solution and then pass it on to Nicole.
Okay. I just want to make sure before I start. Thanks. Okay, now we're going to read it's a short expected business solution. So this is about ideating on how can a Facebook community admin engage with its customers outside of the Facebook group's platform. For example, running a brand survey on convosite.com with a discounted purchase could be one such journey. We are looking for solid ideas with step-by-step guide on how they would each work and the gamification built into it. Remember, the admin would have to engage its members outside of the Facebook group platform on a gamified journey. So with that, I am going to now pass it over to Nicole.
Thank you, Amy. Well, I think the challenge on its own, it's general. So again, for a prior challenge, I said the same. We need to narrow it down to a specific question and answer, right? So in this case, because my background is in health, so let's take healthcare as an example of an industry where we can apply this gamification for engagement. And so one of the things that I will ask the students to approach is, the reward system, right? Like we all like to get rewards for something when we do a good thing, right? And then sometimes when we do bad things or we don't do the things that we're supposed to, then we are either afraid or scared of the consequences, right? So let's go back to one of the platforms that is actually, becoming to one of the go-to platforms for people to lose weight these days, for instance. And that's part of the game here. So I think everybody has heard from Noom before. They're big in advertisement right now. And they use this psychology on how to engage their users on their journey for a better health and nutrition, right? And the way they do it is really by doing these little um, uh, nuggets of information a day that are asking people to reply to, right? So they're little tasks. So, and that's part of the game. So let's talk about that gamification. So the system itself will give you a task, and then the user, the customer, needs to reply either by say I like it, or I read it, or inputting some data like what you ate, or your weight, or if you we're drinking water, right? You're logging some information, and that's how they actually accommodate your journey to better health. So with that in mind, when we talk about gamification to engage the community, we really need to talk about what are the uh, what is the client looking for, right? So as a general question, if and I think you guys saw the video that was posted by the sponsor combo side. uh, if the client Johnson and Johnson is looking into do a new selection of lotions for skincare, right? And but they don't know who's using them or what are the problems that they could solve with that particular solution. They need to post a challenge, right? The same way that we're posting it here for TiE, they need to post a challenge to ask people to reply in a way. So you need to think about the things that are engaging people these days, right? So for instance, if people are you know uh, because they're wearing face masks right now, they might have some issues with rash or something in their faces. So ask them to reply, hey, is your mask causing you a rash, right? Like it's a yes or no situation.
Yeah.
But then you're actually gathering information that you get that on all the people that are actually wearing masks. So that's one type of data that you're getting. So, oh, like I got 100 people that are wearing masks. And then two out of the 100, it seems like, 20% of them are getting this rush. Jackpot, like I can talk with Johnson and Johnson and say, hey, 20% of the people that actually answered this survey are or could be interested in either buying or participating in using your new lotion or your new cream. So always think about the rewards. And so what are they getting out of answering that? Maybe they're getting you know little points or stickers to put in their phone, or little gamification. Also, it's all about the rewards for the clients or for the users, right? So
Now, yes, yes. Since they only have 48 hours for this challenge, right? Kind of, what would your advice be? For the teams, right? Do they, should they focus on, trying to hammer out like a real working prototype, or should they really kind of go from kind of a design thinking? Let's build a conceptual framework or a conceptual design
yes,
for this. What would be kind of your advice on that approach?
I would go for the conceptual, and if you do have time, do a working prototype, but select the situation that you want to engage with, right? Like select a topic. It cannot be that general, right? So pick a topic, select, what is your target audience or your target population. So begin with that. That's very important, because really without knowing who you're targeting, you won't be able to answer, what are the possibilities for that. And then really redefine the question on what sector or what problem are you solving, right, with this gamification. Again, if you go back to healthcare, pick a topic in healthcare, right? Like I said, okay, rash. If we're talking about rash, what is it about Raj that is bothering people?
Yes.
Right? And how are you going to ask them to tell you that information? And once they tell you, what are you going to give them back? Right? So just, pick those simple steps in redefining exactly what is the answer that you want to get. And think as a user, if I answer this question, what do I want to get back?
What I think another thing important to ask is, um, what are some pitfalls that you see people that they could potentially fall into, right? As they begin to do this, because it's always, people say, okay, I'm laying out a good framework. Here's my advice. But sometimes it's good to kind of lay out, mistakes that you see people do so they can think about it as they're going through this process.
Yes, that's a really good question. And I
I mean,
think
is
one
it
of the
time on trying to think of the customer, or is it they get too caught up in?
I think they get too caught up in the minutia and the details, right? And sometimes because initially we want to think about things in perfect settings. When we're designing prototypes, we cannot really think about perfect settings, right? So, think what the beginning is and what the end is, right? And what is the shortest line to connect
Yeah,
those dots, right? And the ones in between are the ones that come after, right? So once you have decide what is your beginning and what is your end. For instance, if you while you're designing your process or for your idea or the solution, you know, a simple workflow, a simple chart saying, it begins with asking this question, right? How are we asking the question? Is it a text? Is it via Facebook? Is it only Twitter? Like with social media, is it a yes or no, right? And then if you answer yes, what happens? If you answer no, what happens, right? And then after each of those what happens, then what is the end? And then everything in my mind starts with a workflow, with a
yeah,
chart. So start
yeah.
there, and then from there you can fill out the gaps.
And I think any advice you have kind of at the end in the challenge, it kind of lays out that they're supposed to kind of look at what is the cost of that customer acquisition at the end of the day. I could see that you could easily lose sight of that. How would you think about that with the end in mind as you're going through this?
Absolutely. Customer acquisition. And how are you acquiring those customers, right?
Mhm.
Like, so not only how much, right? And the how much is not only monetary, right? It's like the
Mhm.
effort for you to acquire that customer. And then you have to select where are you getting that customer from? Like, what are the channels that you have to use to put that game or that the app or that platform in front of the user, right? So think about a little bit of a, a market analysis
Mhm.
on, okay, if I'm targeting a population between 18 and 35 years old, right? Are they all females? Are they all males? Are they local for Texas? Are they, which part of the world you're going to target? And then from there, really segment your population in a way that you're going to be able to, by segmenting it, ask the right question to that population, right? Because, you know, uh, asking about, uh, you know, her shampoo, like, her
Yeah,
products for somebody that is bald, right?
yeah.
They might not be your right audience to ask like that question or to engage in a game with, right? So segment your population and your market while you're doing, and that's part of the market analysis while you're thinking about the solution for the question that you're posting.
Yeah, because I think we always love process. I'm from the energy side, so of course we love process, and we also like risk, right? And customer acquisition in any context is very expensive, especially when we work at startups. We get people to think about that. But I think for each one of those, important as you start to lay them out, just think about what are the risks associated with each pass, right? And what's the potential impact And then what is the likelihood of that risk, right? So just because it's a risk, it's okay, right? And then you can look at those and measure and then see which one, has a bigger impact. So you may have a risk, but the likelihood is low. So that might be a preferred route, right? So you kind of have to diagram it and kind of chart it out. And then I think when we do that, at least on the energy side, then and then it kind of gives you an idea. Okay, what are the things that I can control and which one I can't, and which ones do I take on, which I think might be helpful for them as they think about it.
Absolutely. And think about the vehicle that you're using to do all that, right? Like, select your platform. So as the challenge says, they're talking about a Facebook community. Is it only Facebook that you want to, use as platform, right? These days, there's so many other ones that probably younger audiences are adhering to, like TikTok and some other ones, right? Like, so think how one platform can translate into the other ones, because the reality is that they all evolve super fast,
Mhm.
and thinking just about one of them or one vehicle might not be enough, or sustainable, right, to keep
Yeah,
moving that process forward.
yeah. No, I agree. And it keeps on changing, right? Because each one, I would say, has a different type of demographic, right? When we meet people, we've got different type of people. And I can tell you when they tell Facebook, I automatically think, okay, what kind of segment and why do they use Facebook, or do they use, like LinkedIn, or do they use TikTok versus Instagram? I think it tells you a lot about, how people use certain social media tools, right? So they can start to think about that as they think about targeting, potential customers.
Absolutely. And remember, for each action that you're asking out of your user, you're gonna get like actions and reactions, right? So
Yeah.
if you're asking them to do something, what is that something gonna translate into later on, right?
Mhm.
So one of the examples that I always give my students and colleagues is the Pokemon app and the Pokemon game that was very
Mhm.
popular
Yeah.
a few years ago. I mean, that was probably the best way to get people to get out and
Hmm.
about, and engage with, uh, with a system that was asking them to look for something that they couldn't see.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was, and from there, the amount of data that was collected about how people were moving, where people were located, and what was the extension of the behavior that they were willing to do to collect all the data, the Pokemon uh, little things. It was substantial. So always think of those things that have been part of the past, maybe, and
I
use
think
them
I
as
think
a.
yeah. I think that's a fabulous one because I do because I've got kids. They're teenagers now, but I remember when that first came out, and then people were saying, oh, "What are they doing?" Right? Because it was kind of odd, right? You see people just kind of with their cell phones out and about, and they're looking up. What are they doing? And then someone said was either they were doing that, find the Pokemon. And then people like, oh, that's neat. I want to try it, right? And so then people just it was kind of like a fad. It was like word of mouth. As people saw other people do it, then they wanted to get on and try it. And it had this
Right.
huge ripple effect, right?
And think how that actually evolved into some other business opportunities and markets, because nowadays you have uh, wine labels and beer labels for which you take a picture and they actually talk to you,
Hmm.
right? And they tell you the story about the wine, they tell you the story about, so it went into other industries as a marketing way to approach a particular segment of the population. And I don't think, or maybe they saw that, but I don't think when the Pokemon game came out, they thought, oh gosh, this is gonna be the best marketing opportunity for everybody else, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think I was listening actually because I in the mornings I try to listen to talks because I usually have a long commute time, and they say on average, and it probably varies based on where you live, that from the time you get up and by the time you end your day, you're already bombarded by anywhere from at least 4 to 6,000 different types of marketing messaging now these days, minimum, right? Depends on how many platforms. And I think maybe for this challenge, people can think about, you know, where am I getting all these messages from, right? Which ones can I say throughout my day, where was I targeted and what hit me? What can I remember from that? From, you know,
Mhm.
you forget some of them, right? And then certain ones that you see, you remember. But why do you remember them, right?
And that's
I
part
think
of the game.
yeah, and that's part of the game, right? Is tapping into your own experiences, I think, and translating some of that might provide some really good opportunities for them.
Yeah.
But it's a lot.
Yeah.
So any other parting advice that you have to them as they begin to kind of kick things off, right?
No, I think the one um, piece of advice is that when we talk about gamification, it's really about taking mundane tasks or the day-to-day task into something fun with the expectation that they're gonna bring value added to either a process, a service, or something, right? So going back to healthcare, how these opportunities to engage people into doing something by means of using either Facebook, TikTok, or a specific app, right, would allow them to enhance or get better clinical outcomes, for instance, right? So again, if we go back to the noon
Yeah.
example, by logging your information of what you're eating, they can tell you how well you're eating or how bad you're eating, so you can make behavioral changes and then hopefully lose weight, right, or engage in a better way to be healthier. So always think about what is the long term, the short, medium, and long term ramifications of what you're doing, and always think about how can you enhance and improve outcomes, in my case clinical, in your case maybe economic in the energy industry. How can you enhance those outcomes?
Gotcha. And I think they had a really good question to ask, where do you think the US is now in terms of hackathons, right? Um, as they're going through this, what do you think the value is from it? Is it gaining access to more ideas? Does it enable students to kind of showcase, some of their ideas, that creativity? Is it, because sponsors also learn and mentors also learn from the process too as well. It really is a two-way street. What would be your recommendation, even going forward, and other students of the value of hackathons?
I agree with you. I think it's becoming a way of life these days, right? Because we are asking our students, our not only in college but high school, middle school, to think outside the box, to really think what are the opportunities out there and what are the potential solutions that you can bring to the table. And in my experience, you always see because the younger we are, the less filters and
Hmm.
um, I don't know, layers of uh, things that might stop us from thinking outside the box we have.
Yeah.
The students always come up with the best solutions. They are so creative, and that actually is encouraging, as you said, for the mentors and the sponsors, because you can see how the next generation and the next after the next
Hmm.
are gonna be bringing up, ideas that are gonna be really revolutionary. So the more hackathons and the more pitch competitions and the more chart tanks and the more things that we have, the better, because we encourage kids to really think outside the box.
Yeah, I think they're a good idea. We in energy companies are starting to use them more and more for for when they want to they have the ability to say, okay, listen, I want to put a challenge out there, or let me see what people can come up with, right? So they'll post a challenge, and a lot of times it'll be a company, but they sponsor a hackathon, and it's done professionally, just to see what other ideas are out there, right? Because sometimes even when you're in your own, I'll call vertical, or your areas of expertise, sometimes you really get too siloed, And so when you open that up, you know, through other avenues of innovation, the things like a hackathon, that enables to see, you know, where you may be so close to it, you don't see some of those solutions, or, you know, you're not looking at it from a different perspective. So we're having more companies trying that out, especially with the younger staff, right? And encouraging to get more connected to the innovation ecosystem, right? And then to bring some of those learnings, and the expectation is then they bring them back inside the organization, and then they kind of share that knowledge, right? To get people to start to look at doing things differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, and I think it brings diversity into the pool, right? Like, because everybody has different points of view and different backgrounds and different experiences that they can contribute to
Yeah.
in a challenge. So it's as you said, it's a way to really um, bring the solutions from other industries in to collaborate to the challenge, and really that's what TiE and the organization that I represent here today, Pumps and Pipes, is really all about, to really look into your neighbor's toolbox, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do you guys have in energy that I could use in healthcare, and vice versa, right?
Yeah. And people forget about that. And, you know, there's also rigs and rockets, you know, so there's all sorts of connectivity between all the industries. We just have to remember to look outside. So if any students have any questions, what's the best way to kind of get in touch with you if they have any questions, or they get stuck, and then they need a lifeline, right?
Yeah, no, they can send me an email. I think Ty has my contact information, so they can send me an email, or I can put the email here in the chat.
Okay, great.
Mm. And yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay, well, that sounds great. I think I find this very interesting and exciting. I think it's a great idea. I'm kind of curious to see how this goes. Um, you know, my kids went to a British school, and they did these things with the younger kids. So the younger kids come up with these great ideas, and the older kids kind of shape them. So I'd like to see kind of how does that creativity flow up to the collegiate level, right? In terms of coming up with these creative solutions, and how unique they end up. So, well, thank you for your time. And we put the email of Nicole's in the email chat. And if they have any other questions, they can reach out to Nicole, or, you know, if you can't get a hold of them, then I'll put my email in case, you know, someone can't get a hold of you or something, and at least we make sure that everyone can have a phone a friend available to them, because it can be a bit stressful, right? It is a time thing over the next 48 hours. Okay, well, on behalf of TiE, thank you very much, and thank you, Nicole,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to it in the next 48 hours then.